Let's do a roll call. Someone go to minute?
Doug, it's Whitney.
Whitney, you're gonna take a minute. Yeah.
We have Myra Cossey.
Here.
Barb Plum. Tate Sundstrom.
You're on mute, Tate. He's
Still
here,
on, yeah.
he's here, he can't get off mute.
And Patty Olson.
Here.
And Chair Risch.
Here. Here, very well. But anyway, okay, that's great. The agenda says we'll call for public comment to begin with. I think we should do the minutes first. Everybody get a chance to look at the minutes? Any additions or corrections to the minutes by anyone? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Minutes are approved.
We'll open it up to any type of public comment that might be there. We have anybody from the public that would like to comment? Doesn't look like anybody in the room. Anybody from the public want to comment? Anybody from the public want to comment? I did that thing just because somebody was making some noise over here. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a proposed revisions to Title III of the City of Bismarck Code of Ordinance regarding animals at large. And I understand the issue, but does Janelle want to explain the situation?
Certainly, Chair Risch and advisory board members. So if you recall, it took us numbers of years to revise the animal code. We finally did that at one point. And I think this was one of the items that the police department had indicated they had wished would, the treatment of the running at large tickets would be, the first time would be a infraction. So that's just a fine. There is no jail time involved in that. A second or subsequent one would be a misdemeanor, because if someone is not complying with what we've said is the law and they've had their chance, then, to go from there. We had a case that was rather public that this was brought up. And so it has come back again. And I believe the Animal Control Division would still prefer it to be an infraction for a first offense, and a second and subsequent would be a misdemeanor. I can tell you, if we have a habitually running at large dog, we, in addition, often will do the nuisance process, which can require the dog be removed from the city limits or removed from that individual. I think if we had one, I don't know if we've had him. I can think of one person that we've had it several times. I don't think we had to take her dogs.
Once, a long time before you came.
Okay, off divide. Yep.
Yep.
So, yeah, so that one I don't think we have in recent memory, but I do know, I think that you guys have known, I do treat the animal crimes in our office very seriously. And we are all animal lovers in our office. Actually, both of our prosecutors are big animal lovers. So I can tell you, in terms of how it would be enforced and enacted, we would still treat these as serious matters. Because if someone's running at large habitually, they're defecating in other people's yards and, can scare kids.
A leash coming by my house.
We can still charge that if we've got proof.
That falls under the same ordinance.
Yes.
So what's the fine for an infraction compared to the potential fine for a misdemeanor for a dog at loose?
So I believe the maximum fine for infraction is $1,000 and a misdemeanor is $1,500.
Wow.
Tim, does that sound right?
That's set by, I think, the,
State law.
yeah.
Okay.
But I can tell you this, we are not charging that. I think it's
Well, if you had a habitual offender, maybe.
We can elevate up, and absolutely, we, as prosecutors, we will always do that. In any type of case, driving under suspension, any of these. If it is a habitual thing, we will ramp up the penalties as best we can. We are very limited in our jurisdiction. I've only got 30 days at jail, max, that our office can prosecute crimes. That's the most they can put somebody away. So, and the $1,500 is the most we can charge.
And normally I think you guys do like 150 for that infraction.
So 150 is my recollection for the first time dog at large.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is now. I can tell you when my husband got the dog at large on our golden retriever in like 2014, when my legal assistant left the gate open, it was $250 and they stayed 5 days in jail. But the last several years, it's been about 150, I think, for the first time.
Can the animal control officer simply write a ticket if it's an infraction?
They are not licensed peace officers.
Okay, it still has to be
Sent to me.
prosecuted by you. Okay.
Yep, our office,
Wouldn't it be simpler if they could just write a ticket?
state law doesn't really allow us to do that. They're civilians.
I mean, I'm just thinking about clogging up the court and all that with something, or
It's-
somebody's dog's loose.
No, and it's not at all. I mean, if it's a citation or a long form, it's gonna go to the same court either way. So court will be as clogged as it is either direction.
Infraction it's a must appear.
Yes, this one is a must appear. We have talked about some of the non-traffic infractions, possibly doing the ability to pay online without going to court, especially smaller things first time. If it's something that's not, we're not going to do that, but, so I can't guarantee that will always be the case. We may be able to have it, mail it out, and you can pay it like a parking ticket online, but,
That would be a lot simpler.
there's lots of, different branches of government have going here, so I can only move so many things so far.
So let's say somebody's 20 years old and their dog gets loose. Then at age 65, it gets loose the second time.
Mhm.
Who's keeping track of that?
Well, I can tell you this, municipal court records tend to fall off because you, again, will not see my husband's dog at large anymore. So we don't, those records simply aren't kept that long.
I think it's 7 years.
It could be, I'm not, that's how we keep it for PD and
Yeah.
our records, but I'm not sure municipal court what they do.
Yeah, it's 7 years retention for most things.
Mhm.
And I think that's reasonable. If something doesn't happen, you can start over at 1 again.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
so-
something like that.
Not what it says though, but anyway.
Yeah,
So let me see if I get this straight. If it's an infraction, they're going to get probably $150 fine, okay? That's a pretty good penalty. But you can ramp that up to as much as $1,000 if it happens a second time or the third time. Those are pretty good penalties as well. And then, of course, if the dog does something vicious, there's different laws that apply to that. They attack somebody or something to that effect, correct?
Yeah, and I think the attack one has got to be a second one for a public nuisance. The first, they get one free bite.
Wow.
That's why the dog at large is the hopeful stopping that behavior.
Sure, sure.
Because if they're leashed, there's a good chance someone's in control, so you've got, the ability to.
Well, it seems to me, though, the infraction straight across the board is adequate penalty. And misdemeanor is a crime. We charge the federal judge with a crime because he opened the door and the garage door was open and the dog got out. So he gets a crime. And of course, he recused himself from a lot of cases, whether or not, you can second guess whether or not he had to do that, but he's a federal judge and he has that discretion to do it if he wants to do it. And it caused a lot of problem being it's a misdemeanor. If you could have fined this federal judge up to $1,000 if it was just an infraction, I mean, that's a pretty doggone stiff penalty already without going to the misdemeanor ever.
Part of the problem is, typically we do not have affluent individuals that are charged with this crime.
Sure.
There's a good portion that are very familiar with our jail that get charged with this crime.
Familiar with your what?
The jail.
They're familiar with the jail.
So, for some of them, if you never charge them, have the ability to charge it as a misdemeanor, they won't pay it won't be collectible. So there won't be any penalty.
So you're saying that you might put people in jail for
If-
having their dog run loose?
Yes, we have had that happen.
Wow.
We have had that happen because they would rather sit in jail than pay the money. There are certain,
Or maybe they can't pay the money, so they have to sit in jail, because that's their,
Boy, it seems like a kind of unnecessary use of public tax dollars to put somebody in jail, because their dog got out.
we do it for parking tickets too.
Well, just compensate the dog.
Can't.
Wouldn't that be simple?
And they are private property, so then we have the Fifth Amendment that's involved with having due process for being able to take the dogs. And so as much as we would love to be able to, and the other part of that is we have no room to take the dogs. Those that are subject to seizure, we have to keep throughout the proceeding, even if there's a warrant. Do you have to keep it if there's a warrant?
Tell the case is closed.
Yeah,
So
so,
we've had dogs in there for a year.
and that's not healthy for the dog to be in that setting. Typically, it's gonna make it very unadoptable because it's just like putting somebody in the penitentiary. You know, it changes them.
Confinement, huh?
Yeah, it's a deal with dogs as well, and that makes it more difficult. We don't have, right now, we don't have any room for any dogs as it is. With bites, I think we're still doing a home arrest for the most part.
We're doing as many home quarantines as we can because it would just fill us up. We
Yeah.
can't.
So seizure is something we really try not to do, partly because it is private property rights. And, it's also a lot harder to do and it uses up a lot of our resources. And we'd rather the dogs stay with their owners and just not bite people or not.
you know,
Yeah, that would be better.
How many on average per month or per year is this? And just kind of trying to figure out like how big of a concern this is.
Dog bites?
Dog bites, just for
Sorry.
this one.
Not for dog bites, but more of people having their dogs off a leash or not
I know
taking care of them, I guess.
I had a newspaper request that information, so let me figure out. I have it easily at my fingertips. Where is it? I took it out of our software when it happened. I don't know about the dog bite ones. I could try to find that. We have a lot of problems with service of those individuals because that requires actual personal service that we have to do. And like I said, several of them are very familiar with the inside of the law jail and often have warrants for other things. So they're pretty good at not being found. So we have that.
They're not responsible at all. That's our repeat offenders. They don't care. And so they just let their dog run loose in the yard. They don't care.
So putting them in jail doesn't fix the problem either.
Yeah.
Well, you're not gonna put them in jail forever for a dog running loose.
No, but eventually you gotta build up a case to be able to petition the court
To take the
to
dog.
seize the dog.
Yeah, to take the dog for the habitual ones. There were 41 at-large cases in municipal court in 2023.
Okay, thank you.
And it has ticked up, I feel, since COVID. We know the shelters are overflowing since COVID. We are dealing with issues. I don't know if it's going to stay that.
We don't, that's the last thing we wanna do is send up a complaint. We work very well with the owners and we try to get the dogs back. If they're licensed, we'll try to get them back to them. They don't get charged with it. We have a lot of discretion
Sure.
when it
And
comes to.
for instance, that case, there were several reports of that dog at large at various times
Sure.
prior to being charged. So typically, before they charge, you've had several dog at large cases with that dog.
And it also depends on the cooperation of the dog owner. And we didn't have that cooperation.
We did not.
Well, there's another side to that story, huh?
Yes. So, yeah, there's more to it than just what news puts out.
Well,
You might be surprised, the newspaper doesn't always get all the details and the information
we got
absolutely
press
correct.
here, we have press here at the.
I know, I know. That's why I'm saying it.
Well,
It's tough to have totally, I mean, the complex cases are very difficult to get into small pieces. And the legal process can be complicated to a certain extent as well if you don't live it like we do.
Well, 41 cases, you know, that's less than one a week. I mean, that you actually pursue. You have far more calls than that.
Oh,
Yeah.
far more calls.
Yeah.
It's every day, 3-4 calls at least.
And we get the dogs that are at large that we don't know who the owners are. They end up in the pound, they are never claimed.
Sure.
And then it's, you know, our problem or Furry Friends helps take on our problem a little bit or whoever.
We've shipped animals to Minnesota. We try to find a rescue to take them before euthanization. That's our goal. We don't want to euthanize.
No. Unless it is a dog that is so ill or,
Sure.
um,
It's
or
a vicious animal that we cannot
We've-
socialize.
we've had meth dogs before,
Yeah.
had access to meth and that
Wow.
causes really bad problems, of course. You can see what it does to individuals. It hurts animals.
Yeah, so then there's no changing their behavior.
No.
We don't have a methadone clinic for dogs here.
No.
I would think not. First I've heard of such a thing.
Oh, it's horrible.
I don't get out enough. I
You
run
don't
in
want
wide
to.
circles or right circles.
There you go. I would say the right circles. Absolutely.
Give you an example. Many years ago, we had a canine dog that got into a bag of meth. And he turned on his handler and we had to put the dog down and that was very tough on all of us.
So it was like laying around or something and he got into it, or maybe the owner actually gave it to him. Who knows, huh?
No, it was our canine.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Our police dog.
Like evidence
Yeah.
or something that
When,
was.
when he was doing a search,
It found it.
it got into fentanyl, so.
Oh, that's terrible.
And it got just extremely vicious with this handler and it was very tough. So it happens quite often, actually.
You really gotta be careful with the police dogs when you're investigating.
Well, everyone should be careful not touching anything that you don't know where it's from nowadays.
Yeah.
Yep. Any
Even
powder-
A small amount on your hand even can.
Yeah, little baggies with powder stuff.
Just don't go near it, huh?
Don't touch anything powdered unless you see the powdered sugar in the,
Yeah.
when it's getting put on.
We're going round and round about this. My inclination is just to make it plain infraction straight across the board. You fine them heavily. Throwing them in jail doesn't seem to be a real effective way to deal with things. They're irresponsible people. Maybe we should have a better process of taking the dogs away from people. Or they'll probably just get another one if you did take it away, I suppose.
Usually that's what happens, yeah. That's usually what happens.
We find one somewhere.
It's not hard.
They'll go adopt one. They'll go adopt one from the pound.
No, but
No, we won't let them. We know the name.
yeah, we do not
Yes,
adopt. dogs.
DNA.
Oh, you do, huh?
yes.
Oh, yeah, we do. We know the ones that are irresponsible and
Sure.
But they still get dogs, often of the breed of which they wish, because there's plenty of people wanting to give up their dogs or sell their dogs or,
yeah,
I
there's,
mean,
right now, we can't, it's so hard to get rid of dogs and cats too, because people are having a hard time affording them right now.
Sure. Well, expensive.
The food is very expensive and what they end up doing is they'll just kick them out the door and let them try to fend on their own and hope that somebody else takes care of them. We've had that on people up at the impound where they'll just drop the dog off
Yeah.
and when no
Leave
one's
it.
around and just leave it by her pound.
and to a certain extent, what I'd love to see perhaps would be if we could make the dog and cat licensing easier.
Yeah.
Maybe that would help your dog at large cases, because then we know who the person is. I don't want to necessarily bring them to court. I want that dog to go back to their home.
Are you required to license your dog and cat?
Yes.
Correct, you are.
Boy.
And it used to be easier.
It
I
was.
could get it at the vet office when I went in for the rabies shot. I could get the license at the same time, but now they don't do that.
They do not.
So it got harder.
It did.
I think, what do we have, one vet that still does it or none of them now? They all quit doing it?
my understanding. And it took me, because I had a new puppy, it took me 30 minutes to get all of ours done. Going down to PD. And it was hard for me to find 30 minutes during between 8 to 5 on a Monday through Friday for me to run down
It
there,
is difficult.
you know, with the paperwork. It'd be much better if we could upload it online, push that out. They can pay however, it would be easier.
Why can't we put it online?
Well, we still gotta physically get them a tag. Because
They can come and pick it up.
we could, yeah, it's
Or if
somehow,
they're microchipped too.
Or can you add a tiny little bit to the license fee and you can mail it? I mean,
Absolutely.
Like add
Yep.
$2 handling charge or whatever.
You can pick it up or we can mail it. Absolutely.
there's different processes, it's just logistics of setting it up.
Well,
doing it.
And trusting people to upload the correct rabies certificate for
They-
that dog. or
We would
cat.
still have to review.
Yeah, and.
I assume we're reviewing them. They didn't know me from Adam, the new records lady, so maybe they did after several cops stopped to talk to me, but I know all my stuff was correct, but they were still looking through it, so I think
But
that
if you did it online,
we just look at it online.
You think most people actually get a dog license, a cat license? Most
no, I
don't.
would say most, probably not.
Not anymore. I think it was better when the vet clinics did it.
Yes.
Then there was much more compliance. And I would, you know, like I said, I would rather return those animals to their owners. Because we don't have room for them. I don't want them in court. We want the dog with the owners being responsible.
And I know one time I brought this up and there was something with software, it wasn't gonna happen, but every one of my animals is microchipped. And if there was a way to license my animal and somehow connect it to the chip.
Yep.
And when none of my animals have ever ended up anywhere, but if they scan and the chip is connected to a paid license, the information, but yeah, that would be super easy. Except for the software, okay, is what I was told.
We have scanners,
You have
Yep.
we
do.
have scanners.
So I don't know how we couldn't
But-
put that in our system.
Well,
It's a database. If you give us the number.
Yeah. I had brought this up before and I was told that it was gonna be too difficult because they would need a whole new set of software to do it, but.
Our Central Square is
Oh.
difficult to deal with because they charge a crap load of money to change things. For example, I wanted a short form for accident thing. And they would to simply just take our crash form and reduce it down to what we wanted was $60,000.
So is so.
I mean,
You know, you probably only have one vendor, is that the deal? I mean, it's not like you can go to 3 different places to get a bid on.
So is there a place in the animal licensing database where a chip number could be?
That's something that we'd have to ask our
I mean, if-
records.
Is that in Trackit? Is the licensing's in Trackit too? Or Tracks? Or,
No,
Trackit.
no, it's in our Central Square RMS.
oh, it is.
It's in
Okay.
RMS. So the
Okay.
licensing goes in there. Now, we have an animal thing. I don't know if there's this, a line for chip reading.
Sure.
So that's something to ask Sarah.
I mean, like I said, even my rescue domestic short hair cat that is a dime a dozen has a chip. And.
We
So
are,
is mine.
we are seeing a lot more chips.
mhm.
And it is something, every animal that comes through gets scanned.
Yeah.
Each one of the animal warden, trucks have a scanner. There's a scanner up at the impound. And, the officers don't scan them if, we don't have animal control on. So what ends up happening is when they come in, then the next day, the animal warden would scan them to check for a chip then.
Sure.
When they come in. So they don't get scanned right away because we can't afford,
Scanners for every vehicle, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I understand, they're not cheap.
no.
No.
No, but you scan. I mean, I don't think it's that
Everyone,
onerous to wait for animal control to be on. You're within 24 hours, one of you guys is on.
yeah, they just still might end up having a fee then. It's not, we're not able to just scan it right away and get it back. to
Right,
them.
yeah.
So they're
Right.
just gonna have to pay an impound fee.
So when you put this guy in jail for his dog loose, what happens to the dog while he's in jail? Take him to the pound?
A lot of times they have other people they're living with.
basically, if someone gets arrested and they have an animal, and they go to jail, and we have to take the animal for safekeeping.
For anything, whether it's
And
this or something else.
if they're just arrested in a vehicle or anything and they got a dog, they're given a form, they have a 5-day notice to find somebody to come pick up that dog, or else they relinquish ownership to us and we adopt it out. So they're given that form at the jail,
And that is an effective way to be able to get that animal
you know, and
without having to get to personal service and public
Yeah.
nuisance.
and there's a portion that allows them to just turn the animal over to us too.
Yep.
If they're arrested like that.
Well, any other discussion on this?
I had a question on the thing, are you gonna put or subsequent on there?
Yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday.
Okay.
Yep, last night, I'm like in a subsequent of this or similar
Yeah.
ordinance, because we might have, things might change. I can't remember if it was that number before or a different ordinance number.
Yeah, I couldn't remember either,
So
but,
I'll put subsequent that or a similar ordinance.
and I believe when we wrote it up, we were thinking like the 3-strike rule, I thought we said first and second.
Infractions?
And,
I can draft
and
it.
then it would be a higher fine the second time, and then the third one would be a misdemeanor, because after the third one, if you're not figuring it out.
You want to
That's what-
establish what the fine might be?
No, I think we need that to be discretionary. I mean, all of our ordinances really are, except for administrative traffic that the state sets for it, because there can be circumstances involved. It was the kid who let them out, we still would, it would be good to be able to have that discretion for the defendant's sake and for city's sake.
It all depends on what the circumstances is, if it was known and they don't care
Yeah.
versus dog hit the latch and was able to get out the door and figure it out.
Sure.
Yeah, so we take a case by case of that. So,
And I think our prosecutors have been fairly fair. I think your wardens feel,
But you wouldn't have any discretion if it was a second offense, the way it's written now, it'd have to be a misdemeanor.
no, I do have discretion. That's what we've done all along. Is we have only charged $150 fine if it is a circumstance that's appropriate for it. So it's been deemed an infraction if it's someone who's willing to admit their guilt and they're not doing it multiple times. Just because we can charge up to that, doesn't mean we charge up to that. We can charge below it.
It says up to, it doesn't say up to. A second violation of this offense is a.
Misdemeanor. So it's charged as a misdemeanor. That just means the process goes through as a misdemeanor when they're getting their rights. And if they, we can still treat it like an infraction by the sentencing. So there are times, you see it more, I think, in drug cases where you have someone who's charged with a felony, but the way that the sentencing occurs, it's deemed a misdemeanor by you're below those maximums, not only for the felony, but also for a class A misdemeanor. So then it's deemed a misdemeanor by sentence.
Okay, it just looks to me like the second one's automatically a.
it's charged as.
It's charged,
But
yes.
any charge, I can charge a C felony in district court and it can be reduced down to a B misdemeanor.
Sure.
Yep.
And it's up to what the prosecutor wants to do with that case.
Sure,
and
sure.
do it. So that's the same thing with Janelle and her things is, and we agreed when we went through it, we wanted to keep it in a thing because it is a plea bargaining thing for them, an option saying, we're
So
giving you
wrap-
out.
Wrap
to this."
them hard and then give them a little break, huh?
Yeah. It lets them please, so they don't end up going into court.
Mhm.
They offer the plea deal of, we'll charge it as an infraction,
Mhm.
you pay this amount.
Yep.
So it's very rare that somebody gets charged with a B misdemeanor.
I can think of one person's name that I remember that I think and to be honest, we're not putting people in jail. Usually what it is we will stay jail over their head for a year. And that is an incentive for them not to do it again in the next year. That's in city work. We're not usually putting people in jail. It's that threat of jail that helps them comply with the law for that year.
Now, the very public case was charged as a misdemeanor though, right?
Yes. All
Oh,
41 cases last year were charged as misdemeanors. And then it was actually a deferred prosecution. Was how it was settled, so he didn't even plead guilty.
So, yeah, a lot of times it just was away.
Yeah.
And in that case, he was offered that many times.
Multiple different
And-
times, yes,
And different options.
correct,
So,
correct.
yeah.
But yeah, my prosecutor worked, and that's not uncommon in any case. It's
No,
not different from anybody else.
sure.
That was, I'm mainly the conflict prosecutor nowadays because I'm so old. So, instead of being in court all the time, and I've always told them, as long as we're following what our normal practice is, we don't treat people differently.
True. And everything was always the same. Yeah, we have a good working relationship with the prosecutors, with their animal wardens and that, and getting things done the right way
Sure.
and doing it responsibly and reasonably. And not above what we need.
I mean, I just personally don't want to be so harsh on our citizens if possible.
Oh,
You know.
yeah, we don't either.
You know,
And I don't think we really are. I mean, $150 fine is not an unreasonable thing especially because we know they've been to that location multiple times already
Sure.
and had issues with a dog at large. We gotta be able to back them up to help their authority.
so officer, you're suggesting 3 strikes and they're out maybe?
That's what we had initially thought about.
And I didn't look back to what you said. I just remembered it off our many iterations.
Well, I'm more comfortable with that. I'd rather have it all just a misdemeanor or a infraction myself, but 3 strikes and you're out is more liable. What do the rest of the committee members think?
Oh, take that unmuted.
I did.
Pick it up.
I finally learned how. I mean, I think 2. I think 1, 2 for infractions, and then third's a misdemeanor. I mean, and then that misdemeanor though, like you said, you can use it in your judgment. And you can kind of hold. I think because that way too, the first time it's like, hey, it's an infraction, and then it happens again the second time. Hey, this is your second infraction. By the way, next time, this is going to be a misdemeanor, so you can kind of hold that over their head a little bit, and maybe they'll actually learn. Because some people, it's like, oh, it's $150. Here you go, kind of thing. So maybe keeping it just like 1, 2 infractions, and that third is a misdemeanor, I think is maybe a little bit better. Because I think, I don't know, maybe puts the threat of something, actually going on record a little bit harsher, maybe, I guess. So maybe they don't turn habitual with letting their dogs out.
Well, for the second infraction, it doesn't have to be that 150, it could be 500.
That's
Yeah.
where, that's where.
They've got that option.
Right.
I'm not sure I'm gonna do 1,000. I don't know, our prosecutors would go right to 1,000 on a second time, or maybe even 500, but,
It'll be more.
and it depends on the circumstances again.
Sure.
That could be markedly different from the prior circumstances that we, wanna treat. I mean, that discretion it's not that we want to treat people differently, other than there's a million circumstances this stuff happens in. So we do need some flexibility.
Yeah.
And I would say, if somebody is going to just let their dog be at large, whether they get infraction, they're just gonna do it. They're not responsible people, so it doesn't matter how high you're gonna, there has to be some penalty for that. People who are, I would say, average or better, animal owners, dog owners, if it happens, I mean, if it ever happened to me, I would be mortified, and I would hand you my money and say it'll never happen again, and I put barbed wire up on top of my fence, it would never. But not everybody's like that, and then those people need to have some sort of consequence.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's why you gotta have that
Yes.
option of that,
Yes.
of that misdemeanor.
agreed.
Patricia, what do you think?
I would like to see what was, I can't think of his name, sorry, the guy that's online too. Yeah. Hey,
Mr.
sorry.
Mute, you can call me Mr. Mute.
Cause I'm on that same boat too. If my dog got out and, got caught and came back to me, I would one, I would be crying because my dog's gone. Two, I'd be like, okay, I'm never gonna happen again. But I think the second, third time, I'd say at least the third time, okay, now we need to start charging you. Fourth, fifth. I mean, again, I understand that putting somebody in jail isn't necessarily good tax money, but I don't know what you would do otherwise in order to get it through somebody's head. But then again, what I'm hearing is they haven't just gone to jail because of a dog. They have other instances, and I don't know how you make people responsible. I mean, that's, I think the question here is how do you,
We don't either.
you know, how do you take the irresponsible who doesn't care about anything and try to change that? And I don't want to say just over a pet, but you know, there's a whole other slew of things behind them that they're also not being responsible for. So I don't know what the answer is for that.
Like the officer said, they need all these cases to build up to make a case to
Mhm.
seize the dog.
Yeah.
So you've got a paper trail of this going on for ad infinitum. And then, hey, you've now lost your dog.
Okay,
Can
so
we cut off
the consensus is 3 strikes and you're out. And Chanel, you can draft that up.
I will, and then my intent would be to then indicate that the animal advisory board is okay with that, and then it would go to city commission. I have to do 2 meetings for ordinance changes and everything. I will change that to a third or subsequent violation of this offense. Or similar ordinance, because we have changed the numbers around, so I'm just gonna put similar in there because we've messed around with things in the last couple of years.
Sure. Do we should pass a motion approving that?
I think that would be the best bet unless Sergeant has another.
I got one more thing for the, on that number 1, for running at large, it is unlawful for any owner or keeper of a dog to allow the animal to be at large. Can we have a cat put in there? Or a domesticated animal, or put it as a domesticated?
I think it would have to be cat or dog, just like our cat or dog licensing. Those are the ones we do have control over. The birds would be difficult
Yeah, I know.
for you to enforce. What other animals are you? Oh, is it the snake that got loose you're thinking about?
Yeah, there's certain things that we have, you know, I just wanna categorize it to where, because we do have people that will call and complain about their neighbor's cats come over,
Mhm.
defecate in their in the garden.
Yeah, I
And
got
if we don't have cat in there,
Correct,
we're not gonna be able to charge for that.
correct.
So I just want
Yeah,
to
in
make sure
item
that
2, it talks about dog or cat solid waste, but
Yeah.
item 1 is not.
to be loose. And then it also covers if we have the cat in there.
So yeah, the defecation is in the ordinance already
Yeah,
for
that is
cats.
for that, but I mean, for being contained, if we have a cat that gets hit by a vehicle, then the owner of that cat is upset with that driver and wants this done and this done and this done.
They let the cat at large.
Right.
But if it's not in here at large, for
Well,
number 1,
If you look at number 2, you've got cat and dog at the end, but you don't have it at the first part of the
and the
sentence.
first part, that's why I wanted in the first part.
So I think we need to add or cat up above as well.
And
Number 1
number,
and 2.
I see 3 places where you have to put or cat.
So the cat owner, so unlawful for any owner or keeper of a dog or cat added
yeah,
to allow the animal to be at large. No intent or knowledge by the owner or keeper of a dog and at or cat is necessary to prove violation. And then the second one, every owner or person, we already say dog and cat. Yeah, I think the number 2 already has dog and cat.
and
At
they
the
have
bottom.
the bottom,
About,
yeah.
not the first sentence,
The-
or the
Not the
first,
first sentence, you need to put it.
I guess it is only one sentence, but it's the first line.
Yeah, we need,
Control of a dog or cat,
Yeah.
or when
Or
the
the
cat.
On number 2, it does say dog or cat.
It does say dog or cat.
but in the second sense, second part.
One
it does.
such animal is off the owner or custodian's property shall collect, remove, and properly dispose of the dog or cat solid waste when eliminated.
Yeah, that part, but up on top there.
Every owner or person having control of a dog,
Or cat.
it-
And we put or cat
you'd
there.
have to add it there.
It does say it.
It's on our form.
It's not on the one that you sent it. This is the one that was in our email.
Yeah, the one that you sent doesn't have it.
Oh,
And there's also something else missing since we're in there, I think.
I copied that right off of our form.
There's that severability clause under section 2. I think there's stuff missing on that very last. Cause it's by a decision of any court or competent remaining portions of this ordinance. I would think.
Boy, something happened in our forms, because I copied it literally off the, okay. Yeah, and this is not, it hasn't even gone through review yet for our internal staff, so, any of those, but yeah, the ordinance as it lists right now does say all of that with dog or cat.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it.
Okay, yeah, I'll double check that. I don't know why it would be different.
And then your severability has all the words in there?
I'll double check that too. Like I said, it hasn't gone through the clerical part of it. I was mainly trying to get approval of the concept before we finalize things to have it go through all our reviews.
Sure. Plus the commission will be able to look it over, give it one more look.
Will be two meetings.
2 meetings?
So I just want to make sure here before we do a motion, if the sergeant is, are you happy how it states now? We're gonna do 3 infractions first is what you wanted, right? And then the 4th one is we can kind of hang that misdemeanor over them? Or is it 2 infractions? 3rd one's a misdemeanor, right? Okay, perfect.
And
Okay.
we are okay, because there are a lot of cat owners that let their cats out.
Oh, yeah.
We're all aware of this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You should see my Ring doorbell footage. They go past my doorbell back and forth every day, every night.
Yeah.
Other people's cats don't.
We have a lot of complaints about it. And we do have problem areas where people will end up having too many cats, but they don't have them in the house, but they have them running around their house. So those types of, that's why I wanted,
a lot.
yeah. Which it does curb a lot of the rodent issues. And it does feed our
Wolves.
coyote population.
Yeah, it does.
That's the upside, but it does the harmful to the native birds and things too, the cats.
It is,
Very.
yeah, but I just think we have to have it in there so we have that discretion for a case by case.
So you want the cats and dogs to be at large both?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I can add that. So I think I'm looking if there's a motion to add cats to running at large and change from 2 infractions and the 3rd's a misdemeanor.
Correct. I'll accept a motion to that effect.
Second,
Oh, who
I'll
moved?
make a motion.
Okay.
I'm not the part of the
Yeah,
black.
you.
I figured.
I'll second the motion.
I was waiting for somebody, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Irritate on either one.
Do we need to call the roll or can we just say all in favor?
If you do, nope, it has to be a roll call vote after discussion, if there's any further discussion.
Any further discussion about it? Okay. We'll call the roll.
Tate Sundstrom,
Approve.
Barb Plum. Myra Cossi,
Aye.
Patty Olson,
I,
and Chair Rish.
Aye.
So that will probably go on the 2nd meeting in July and the public hearing will be in August. Thank you.
Wow. That's a lot of thoroughness.
There's a lot of process. Crossing Ts and dotting Is everywhere. we have
Oh,
to do,
my.
so.
Okay, the last item on our agenda is other business, and I think Barb had something.
Well, and I don't wanna. I understand that nobody wants to euthanize an animal. But it makes me a little sad that the pound is closed to the intake of dogs. Isn't it like what? One of my coworkers on Monday was driving to work in the morning and there was a dog that had been hit by a car. Its whole head was basically gone and she moved it off the road. And she put it on social media so that if the owner would see it, they would know, blah, blah, blah. Then everybody blew up and they're like, well, if that's the dog that's been running around here and somebody had it in their possession and they called animal control or PD and they said, we can't, there's no room to let it go. Now the dog got hit by a car and I would much rather see an animal have a peaceful euthanasia death than getting its head ripped off by a car. And there are dogs that have been out there for months and months and months. I think I saw one that was been out there since February. It may be a wonderful dog, but so is the one that possibly got hit by a car and died horribly in front of people where my coworker had to drag it off. So how can our town be closed to the intake of dogs?
Well, we don't have any room, is
Well,
close. Yeah, I know.
Can't you euthanize the ones that have been there a long time?
That is a process that we have discussed yesterday, actually, in the meeting with our animal control wardens. and with some of the animal volunteers I had. And things are gonna be changing with that.
Okay.
There will never be one that's gonna be out there for a year like we had.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can't
I-
do that.
And that was, I was pushing and pushing
Yeah.
for euthanization.
And you probably don't know my background, not everybody does, Myra does. I used to manage a humane society and we were the Bismarck, City of Bismarck Pound, Bismarck and Mandan. We were the pound,
When is it on the strip?
no, we were a Pet Connection Humane Society on
Off of,
83.
83.
Mhm.
Yep, I know.
So if an animal was impounded, it came into we had a quarantine area that was separate from our adoption area. We held it for X number of days. At that time, as the shelter, if the owner didn't claim, we could either say, yep, we think this animal is adoptable, we'll move it on to our adoption floor, or if it was like, I don't think we'll ever find a home for that. It was up to the PD to take it. We didn't care if they took it to the vet to have it euthanized, if they took it and put it in their backyard because they loved it. But it was the Bismarck PD that had to, we called it final disposition. It's either we would adopt it out or it would get euthanized. And there was always room. There was always room for an animal that, and I know now to a population, human population and animal population is
And
way
our
up there.
pound's the same size it's been.
Great.
Since,
Well,
since we left that
We
building,
had 10 kennels. That's all we had. How many, is there?
there's spaces for 18 dogs.
Yeah, see, we had 10 and we kept up, but there's more animals, more people. I understand that. However, this isn't the first time I've seen we are close to the intake of dogs on the social media page. And I'm like, if I found a dog, if a dog just came into my yard and I can't keep it because I have my own pets,
Sure.
I count on being able to, I don't know if it's my tax dollars or not, but I'm gonna say my tax dollars, pay for the pound. I wanna be able to have somebody be responsible for that animal without saying just let it go again and possibly.
We don't ever tell them to let it
Well,
go.
that's
We-
what
we-
people say.
We tell them, you found it, your responsibility. If you let it go, that's on you because we can't take it. We don't have the room.
But
We
you-
don't have the.
But you could if you started euthanizing ones that have been out there since February or March or April.
Let me see if I get that straight. So if a dog comes into my yard and stays, and I call you, you'll tell me that I have to keep that dog?
Or,
No,
no,
it's
it's your responsibility.
it's your choice.
Oh,
It's
well,
your choice.
let's say I didn't want the dog.
And you just don't deal with it
Okay.
because.
Basically, let it go,
Yeah.
which is then I'll
Or,
get hit by a
or
car.
find somebody that could maybe house it and put it in a garage, call people. People have to do that in other towns everywhere that don't have pounds. We get calls from Steele, Kidder County, all these other
Yeah.
counties
They
wanting,
don't have ponds.
they don't have anywhere to put them. So then they're asking us, and we keep refusing, we refuse. we
Well,
refuse to make it
and I-
stop.
And keep in mind,
Yeah,
we also take Mandan.
Right,
yeah,
Right.
well, and we did
And we-
too,
yeah.
that with our 10 kennels, we did Bismarck and Mandan.
Yeah.
So it's not just Bismarck that we
Yeah.
end up, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
But I support that you don't take them from other jurisdictions because I understand they don't have a pound, but this one is the Bismarck pound and then the Mandans that, are they just renting space?
they helped construct
Okay.
the expansion
Yeah.
part of it, so that's why.
Right now, our contract with Mandan has not been renewed. And that's been in negotiations for how long?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you have to turn the negotiations over to the new negotiator.
Yeah.
Cause the old one is no longer on the commission. You do what you have to do. All I know is that out by the landfill.
Up by the landfill. So, yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of things that.
Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
that was my other business. It kind of precipitated because of my coworker pulling that poor dead dog off the road on a Monday morning on her way to work. And then finding out that that dog had been at large before and had been reported as being out and they were not helped by the city. And so it just was at large again and it got smushed by a car.
And it is very unfortunate. We don't want to see that as well. And that's one of the conversations we did have with our animal wardens and that things are changing with that pet loss.
You know, furry friends and, you know, I know there's a lot of rescues that step in and help, but they have limitations too. And,
They're completely. fine.
yeah,
And actually, they're people because they are probably got issues to where they shouldn't have that many.
mhm.
And
In foster homes, in individual, yeah.
yes, there's people that have their whole basement full of cats for, that are part of those rescues.
And we do euthanize cats when we get over capacity
Yeah,
sometimes.
what, a lot of, yeah. Actually,
Well,
we're able to actually get rid of a lot of cats because of
Farmers.
farmers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cats can be a lot more fractious though too, and not adoptable to the average person. So I would again support, if it's a cat that is not going to assimilate well into either a home or be able to be placed on a farm and stay there. Sometimes there are worse things in life than a peaceful death. There are worse things.
Well, some cats are feral and they can't really be.
Okay, right.
Those get put down right.
Yes,
away.
yeah.
We don't even try
Yeah,
to.
don't mess with them. Yeah, you're gonna
We don't want injuries.
risk a bite. Yeah.
So, yeah, those ones that have to be taken care of.
And I
Because
think, I don't wanna open a can of worms on this too, but I think, I mean, this is gonna be a huge topic to talk about, cause I mean, you're saying 3 months, put down a dog, it's been 3 months because there's no room. Well, I think there's a bigger problem than that is the people not fixing their dogs to control the population. But yeah, we had Pet Connection with 10 kennels. What was that, 15, 20 years ago? And there's,
Yeah, it was I was there 2000 to 2004.
Mhm.
right. I mean, and now all we have is 8 more cages for a town of, I mean, what, 60, 70,000 people and who knows how many animals. I mean, I think this is a serious thing if we're going to be the advisory board is, do we, let the sergeant talk with everybody and kind of get their opinion and see how we can step in front of the city commission or whatever and say, hey, we need a bigger budget or something. This is why we need, I mean, I know, I get the smirk, we need that. But I mean, seriously, you can't fix a problem by killing animals that didn't have a choice to be let loose. But there's got to be some way. I mean, we got to get with the times, especially
And
for, I
again,
mean, this-
the Pet Connection tape, however many years ago, 20 years ago, they had 5 days to make that decision. It wasn't 3 months. They had 5 days. We boarded them for the police department. And actually, I think it was 3 days at the time, but we kept them for 5. And after that, I mean, there were animals that were being put to sleep after 5 days if the owner didn't come. And if we didn't feel we could adopt them or if our shelter was full.
are we also keeping animals though that are for county cases? Do we still have some of those?
And
So there are some that,
Yes, and
We have arrest holds and we have lots of arrest holds that have to sit up there until that. And that's the one thing we try to push with the prosecutors is like, we need to get this taken care of.
and that's not
That's
our prosecutors, that's not us. Just so we're clear,
Yeah, it's state's attorney's office that we're dealing with.
because they deal with very big murders and sex offenses.
Sure.
So this is very small for them, but
But we have to keep on them and going, hey, Mandan gets charged daily fees for all their arrest holds. And we send them bills and they pay them.
Mhm.
And we remind them, hey, you've had one in here for 4 months.
Mhm.
What do you guys?
But those animals are not on your adoptable.
no, they can't be, but
but they take
up
up space.
Yep, they
that we
take up-
cannot
Right.
change.
You can't put them on an adoptive roll.
No.
No.
Unless-
No,
No.
That's
Court
because their
has to-
evidence. or-
yep, their evidence, or if it's process that they're doing on it, you have to complete the due process till the case is closed. Ours go quickly,
Maybe-
district court slower.
Maybe we could get Mandan and Lincoln to throw in some money and
No, we don't
expand
want
the,
Lincoln, no.
you know,
No, because then we'll get the chickens too. Well, no, we don't get the chickens from Mandan, that's outside of ours,
Except,
yeah,
Mhm.
because that's.
So
the
here's
problem.
here's the thing is, okay, I know when I said we needed to like talk about expanding and we got the smirks. Why is it such a top? Why is it? I mean, is it the city commission that doesn't believe in expanding the pound or helping the pound? Is it the pound itself?
So,
It's
You're competing with making sure our roads get plowed. There are police officers that have vests to protect their lives, our water's clean, and lots of other things. I don't get money either, so,
right,
Uh,
right.
you know, it's not that it's not important, it's that there are a lot of important things.
Budget process is very tough.
We are very,
Right.
we run lean, PD runs lean, there is very little give, especially under current conditions.
Okay.
Because our costs are going up, right, just like everybody else, insurance, utilities.
And
Right.
if it's the same as it used to be, the licensing fees don't go to animal control. The licensing
Well, then
fees,
no one,
they're not
It goes to general fund.
general
But
fund.
it is counted in your revenue for your department, but we are not making a ton of money
Well,
off.
and that's what, I mean, if the licensing fees, if it was made known to the public, these are going to help the pound, more people may license because they're like, oh, I want to help the pound here. I'm going to license my 5 cats that I never used to license before.
How much is a license fee?
$5.
Well, and it depends on if you have.
Or per year, $5 per year for however long your rabies is.
But if it's spayed or if it's not.
Spayed or neutered
Yeah.
is $5, sorry.
We show dogs, so our animals are not spayed or
Oh,
neutered.
Right,
So we have a little bit more, but I'm willing to pay that. So. But yeah, this is what I see on social media.
What's that?
We have to.
I know. But you don't if you put those. I know. Like I said, it was hard for me too. I had to make a decision on a lot of euthanasias.
With that, conversation I had with the animal volunteers yesterday was quite, or Tuesday, it was quite long and trying to
Oh,
make
yeah.
them understand things, because they want our thing to go to a shelter status.
Hmm.
And I had to bring them down and explain to them, we're always gonna be an impound.
Mhm.
Whatever you do above and beyond for those animals is a bonus for the animal. We're always gonna be an impound. We provide a roof over their head, food and water, and we clean once a day.
And it should be like I said, the ordinance says you have to keep them for an X number of days for an owner to come. After that, it's on a day by day basis. And if another one needs to come in, you may have to make, and like I said, we had to do that. And maybe they need to, like we did, build a shelter. And then they can be, taking from the pound or I don't know.
Yeah,
There's not enough money in the world to take care of everybody else's animals.
no, there isn't. And
No,
that's-
no,
Yeah.
no, there
We're
isn't.
never gonna be able to catch up.
Yeah.
And to get back to Tate's, question about the funding is, we've been asking for a PD for 15 years, new PD, because we're busting at the seams. We can't even get a PD.
Mm-hmm.
that's so sad.
And
Yeah.
so,
What's a PD?
Police department.
Building.
New facility.
yeah, looking at the new facility. So we were lucky just to get that building when we got it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I explained to volunteers too. I said, we're lucky for what we have, and we have to work with what we have.
And you're luckier than some communities that don't have a pound at all, like you said, the
Exactly.
other counties or.
We have Minot, we have Williston
Mhm.
coming and asking us, and we give them all how we do things, because we're looked at to being the premier agency that has a good record of taking care of things, doing it the right way, and everybody comes to us for those advices to run things the right way. So we want to keep it that way. The euthanizations are gonna start happening more, because that is something that we discussed. We cannot be doing it. It's hard on the wardens. I understand. I don't want to put any of it down, but we understand it. And that's what I told the volunteers is our caring side has to be put aside, or
Well, and
the business side is we have to continue running it the way it's supposed to
And-
be.
keeping in mind that there are other animals that are out there that may need that roof over their head. And you
Yep.
can't help them.
And they might be more adoptable than what we have.
Exactly. Exactly. And it was my decision for every animal that was ever euthanized at the Humane Society and we were not a no kill. We had to make room, and I had people come at me and they're like, you have to take care of what you have. And I'm like, yeah, but what about the ones that need to come in? And what we have is nobody's going to adopt that animal. It's taking up the kennel. It's suffering because it's not happy there.
Yeah.
There are worse things than a good death. And then you can have room for more. And I would support that, but
I support you also.
thank you.
I have,
Yeah.
I was in a big fight with one of our senior animal wardens for many years. She retired now.
And it's not, nobody wants.
And there are some, we have some wonderful volunteers that give so much of their time, and energy, and they are, not happy with that idea.
They will fight me on that, and that's what.
So the public will probably, I mean, if
We're gonna
that,
have some kickback.
Yeah.
Big
And that-
kickback.
so should you talk about this at another time? Is this something animal advisory needs to be involved in, or are we gonna just deal with it on police department?
We'll deal with it on our.
Yeah,
own.
I don't, yeah.
We know what we gotta do. So.
We don't always move fast, but we do try to move towards successful solutions.
Yeah, we,
So when is the pond open?
what do you mean?
For adoption?
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime there's an option available, you call and make an appointment to come up there. And that was the other thing is we're not gonna be doing open hours. The volunteers wanted open hours again, and I cannot staff it.
Yeah.
I cannot staff it. And there's
Is
the call volume that we're holding.
Yeah. Is it possible for volunteers to staff it? You
We're
can't
not
just,
gonna allow
safety-
volunteers to
yeah,
do
yeah.
that. Safety wise, we're gonna have to have a staff there.
I mean, and again, apples and oranges, the Humane Society that I had, we did allow volunteers, but it was a private
Sure.
shelter.
Yes.
It wasn't city, so.
And we got money there and we got. Yeah.
Drugs, probably euthanasia, or is the vets bring those if you?
We would have done that.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, that's not, no, we don't have that, but we have,
Okay.
we have fun sitting around, and if you can't watch everything, if we don't have people to staff it right,
Mhm.
we're not gonna do it right. We're not gonna open ourselves to it.
And that's fair.
So,
Okay, is there any other business? Any other business? Public comment?
Continuing to meet if there's no agenda.
So, in the past, I'm new to this, so I'm just trying to get some history, but, there's been some consistency of not having agenda items and it's the first meeting this year, correct? The previous meeting was not.
Probably in a whole year
Yeah,
almost.
because there were no agenda items.
Okay. So is there, Commissioner Rish, is there something you would like to do to, change the process a little bit? Been hard at times to get a quorum also.
You want to abolish it?
I don't, I mean, that's not what I'm asking.
What
Your
do you
options,
suggest?
your options are to, you could abolish it, you could, change it to be an as needed type thing if there's big changes. Or you could make it, try to get members to bring, agenda items. If those items exist, I don't even know.
I like the idea of as needed. What about the rest of the folks?
I know when we started, I've been here since it was formed,
Okay.
and it was monthly.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about not having anything to talk about every month. Then it went to quarterly, and it was better. But after we, like you said, it went through the whole ordinance and got all that done, things slowed down quite a bit. And I mean, as needed would be fine with me.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to that effect, to have these meetings held as needed rather than monthly.
I will make that motion.
A second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's, call the roll.
Okay, we have Barb Plum.
Aye.
Myra Cossi.
Aye.
Kate Sundstrom,
Aye.
Patricia Olson,
I,
and Chair Rish.
Aye. Okay, any other business? If not, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
I.
Well, nice meeting everyone.
Yeah, me too.
Good discussion.
Yeah, this
Yeah, a lot of things I didn't know.
There's a lot of things. You come to it, I like, and learn a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
That's good. Yeah. Appreciate you doing that.